All right, let's dive into a kind of secret history, one that's going to flip everything you think you know about civilization completely on its head. It's a story that really boils down to one simple, but honestly, a super powerful question. Who actually drives history forward?
Right from our very first history class, we're all taught this super clear story. On one side, you've got civilization, right? That's where you find intellectual freedom, all the cool innovation, all the wealth. And then on the other side, you've got the barbarians from the steppes, and they're just painted as violent, static, poor. It's a really neat and tidy picture, and it kind of forms the foundation of how we see the world. But there is a huge glaring problem with this whole set.
And here's the problem, right? If these settled civilizations were so incredibly advanced, why did they almost always lose? Why did they keep getting conquered by the so-called barbarians? I mean, think about Genghis Khan. He didn't just roll over one great civilization, he conquered a ton of them. And here's the kicker, he wasn't some kind of exception to the rule. Nope, he was just the latest example in a pattern. It goes back thousands of years. And that paradox, right there, that's the key to unlocking a totally different way of looking at history.
Okay, so to solve this puzzle, we've got to start by realizing that our whole idea of civilization is, well, it's pretty flawed. Because it turns out that these huge, great empires, they don't just get defeated by an outside force. No, they carry the seeds of their own destruction right inside them. They literally rot from the inside out.
See, the true engine of progress, it's not some giant, sprawling empire. It's actually what comes before that. In the beginning, when a civilization is just getting started, it's usually this collection of competing city-states. And this system, which we can call open cooperative competition, is what sparks just incredible innovation. Think about it. Everyone's learning from each other, they're trading with each other, and they're all trying to one-up each other. It's like this creative furnace, just forging new ideas left and right.
But then, do you know what happens? One of those city-states wins, it conquers everybody else, and forms a massive empire. And almost immediately, that engine of innovation, it just starts to sputter and die. The whole system flips. It goes from being open and competitive to being insular, secretive. It basically becomes a monopoly, a giant bureaucracy that's designed not to create new things, but just to control what's already there. The very secret sauce that made it successful in the first place, it gets stamped out.
And for the average person living inside one of these mature, dying empires, life was anything but a picnic. You weren't free or prosperous. You were basically a pawn, constantly getting drafted into endless wars. You were very often trapped by debt. So badly, in fact, that people sometimes had to sell their own kids just to survive. There was no social mobility, no way to move up in the world. And the elites? Oh, they were way too busy fighting each other for power to even think about you. It was a system built on stagnation and, frankly, servitude.
So while all this is happening, while the empires are becoming rigid and corrupt, out on the vast grasslands, something totally different is going on. The people there are being forged by their incredibly harsh environment into the exact opposite of an imperial citizen. You see, their geography wasn't a handicap at all. It was actually their greatest secret weapon.
The absolute key to understanding this is the land itself. The steppes are these vast grasslands where you simply can't farm. That's it. That one simple fact changed everything. It forced the people living there to completely abandon agriculture and invent a whole new way of life. They built an economy based not on plants, but on animals. This wasn't some casual choice, it was pure necessity, and it set them on a radically different path from everyone else on Earth.
Now, this brand new animal-based economy, it required a whole stack of innovations. First up, biology. They actually evolved lactose tolerance as adults. Being able to drink milk your whole life gave them this massive nutritional advantage, making them, on average, taller and stronger than farmers. Next came technology. They domesticated the horse, which, that's a game changer for mobility. Then they combined that with the wheel and the wagon, which let them become fully nomadic. They could literally pack up their entire world and move it wherever they needed to go.
And this new lifestyle, this technology, it ended up shaping their entire society. Think about it. The constant danger of raids meant they developed a patriarchy that really valued male leadership and aggression. And to keep the family's wealth, which was their animal herds, all in one piece, they practiced primogeniture. That just means the eldest son inherits everything. So, what happens to all the younger sons? Well, they had to go out and make their own fortune. They formed these warrior gangs, these secret societies, and they'd go raid for wealth and for wives. It created this kind of perpetual motion machine of conflict and expansion.
The social glue that held their society together wasn't some complex bureaucracy like in an empire. It was all about personal loyalty. They used what's called a patron-client relationship. Here's how it works. A powerful leader, a patron, lends resources, horses, weapons to a younger warrior, a client. In return, that client repays him with absolute loyalty in battle.
And this is crucial. It is not slavery. Every single man is a free, independent, and highly motivated warrior. They're fighting for their patron, sure, but they're also fighting for themselves. And an army of guys like that, way, way better than an army of miserable imperial conscripts.
And as the historian David Anthony puts it, their entire world was just incredibly volatile. It was a boom-bust economy. Your herds, your entire wealth, could be wiped out literally overnight by a bad storm or a raid from another clan. This forced them to be super flexible, incredibly resilient, and always, always opportunistic. They were living in this world of constant high risk and high reward, which is a universe away from the predictable, slow cycles of a farming life.
So, what we have here are two completely opposing systems. On one side, you've got the stagnant, bureaucratic empire. On the other, the dynamic, aggressive, opportunistic steppe culture. And when these two worlds collide, the result isn't a surprise. It's not an anomaly. It's a predictable 4,000-year pattern of conquest.
And I really want to stress, this was not a one-time thing, not at all. It was more like a series of massive waves, crashing against the shores of civilization, over and over. Around 2500 BCE, you had the Yamnaya. Then, later, the Scythians. Then you have the Huns, who helped bring down the Roman Empire. And of course the big one, the Mongols. This timeline shows this relentless pulse just beating out from the heart of Eurasia, reshaping entire continents time and time again.
And the result of these conquests? It was often a complete and total transformation. We have genetic evidence now that shows when that first wave, the Yamnaya, moved into what we call Old Europe, they didn't just mix in with the locals. It was a near-total replacement of the male population. Let's be really clear, these were not peaceful migrations. These were violent takeovers that fundamentally remade the culture and even the DNA of entire continents.
For millennia, there was just no answer to the steppe's ultimate weapon system, the horse archer. I mean, think about it. It combined insane mobility with deadly firepower in a way that settled armies just could not counter. It was basically the nuclear weapon of its time. And this long, long era of steppe dominance, it really seemed like it was going to last forever. But then, a single invention came along and broke the entire cycle for good.
And that invention was gunpowder. Suddenly, for the very first time, a big, centralized state could just hand a musket to a common soldier, field a massive army of them, and defeat the world's greatest cavalry. Gunpowder allowed these empires to project force from a safe distance, totally neutralizing the speed and the incredible skill of the horse archer. In the end, the weapon that finally conquered the steppes wasn't a better horse or a better warrior. It was a better bureaucracy, one that could mass-produce guns.
And so, all of this leaves us with a really big question for today. The 4,000-year reign of the steppe warrior was completely shattered by a single disruptive technology. So you have to wonder, what's the gunpowder of our era? What new invention is bubbling up right now that could completely upend the global balance of power that we all take for granted?